To understand the stress strain behavior and volume change behavior of the normally consolidated soil and the over consolidated soils, these curves are plotted, and similarly the similar curves are plotted for loose sands and dense sands. So these curves are plotted with the help of data obtained from triaxial test. So normally consolidated drain test is used for obtaining this data. So this curve here shows the curve between plot between deviator stress and axial strain. So in case of over consolidated clay, as we apply the stress, so the strain will increase, and at a lower value of strain it will show the highest value of stress, and after this value, as the strain increases, this stress decreases in the soil, and it reaches some ultimate stress. So this decrease in stress is given due to the fact that when the over consolidated soil is stressed up to its maximum limit, so after that it dilates, it shows the volume increase. Now the reason for this dilation is given something like this, that when this soil is stressed, so with time what happens at the shear plane, so whatever the shear plane is there weakest, so some flaky particles will be there, so these flaky particles reorient themselves. So, and this reorientation, due to this reorientation, they dilate, and water content also increases, and so in this process it dilates, plus its shear strength also decreases. So this is the reason which is given for the decrease in shear strength of the over consolidated clay with time. And so because of this dilation the volume will increase. So here we can understand the volume behavior of the soil. So for over consolidated clay, if it is strained, so first it shows a decrease in volume. For some stress it will show the decrease in volume, but later it will show the increase in volume. That means it start to dilate after that point. Whereas the normally consolidated clay, if it is stressed, so it is compressed, so it will generally go under compression because it is stressed, with a value of stress that is the maximum that it is facing. So maximum stress it is facing, so because of that it will go under compression. And this next plot is for the pore water pressure and the strain. So we can understand with this volume behavior itself. So we know that for over consolidated clay the volume increases, and for normally consolidated clay the volume decreases. As I said earlier also, if this volume increase is taking place and if we are not allowing the volume to increase by stopping the drainage, so because of that negative pore water pressure develops, and that is the case with over consolidated clay. Whereas in case of normally consolidated clay, it wants to show a volume decrease. That means it wants to be compressed, but if we are holding this water to move out, the water wants to move out of the soil, but we are holding it by keeping the conditions as undrained. So in that case the pore water pressure will be positive, so the pore water pressure will increase. So that is the case for normally consolidated clay, and the negative pore water pressure is the case for over consolidated clay. The same is the case with sands. That means normally consolidated clay behaves similar to loose sand, and over consolidated clay behaves similar to dense sand. So here we can see same things, that for dense sand the stress increases up to its peak stress, and after that as the strain increases the stress decreases and it reaches its ultimate stress. Whereas for loose sand, as the strain increases the stress simply increases and it reaches its ultimate stress point. And for the volume change, so for the dense sand, first it shows a little decrease in volume, and after that its volume increases because it dilates. And similarly for loose sand, when it is compressed, so its volume will decrease. it will simply decrease when it is strained. And so this is another relationship, that is between void ratio and shear strain. So when these sands are shear strained, so some shear strain is allowed applied on this soil, on sand. So what happens, if it is in loose condition, so its void ratio decreases, so its E value decreases and it reaches a value of minimum E, that is called as E critical, and after that even if we apply more load, so its void ratio will not decrease. And in the case of dense sand, as we apply shear strain on the dense sand, so first its void ratio will decrease for a little while, and after that its void ratio increases and it also reaches the value of maximum void ratio, that is known as E critical, and after that its void ratio will not increase. So here we get an important result, that if a sand is having critical void ratio, that is ECR, so if it is having critical void ratio, so if we apply shear strain, it will not show any volume change, not show any volume change. So if we can find out this critical void ratio, then we can say that if the void ratio is more than critical void ratio, if the void ratio is more than critical void ratio, then the soil will compress, and if the void ratio is less than critical void ratio, then the soil will, or the sand will dilate. So this is an important result. So after this, the next thing that we have to study is the Skempton's pore pressure parameters. We know that the shear strength of the soil is a function of effective stress on the soil, but the calculation of effective stress is difficult in the field because we do not know the pore water pressure in the field, but we do know the total stress that is coming on the soil. So if we can find a relationship that relates the change in pore water pressure with the change in total stress, then our problem is solved. Then we can find the change in pore water pressure, and from there we can find the change in effective stress, and we can find better values of shear strength. So the same thing is solved by the Skempton's pore pressure parameters. These are the dimensionless parameters and are empirical in nature. If you say that what we studied earlier when we studied the effective stress, that the increase in stress which is coming on the soil is equal to increase in pore water pressure. So that's what we saw when we studied the effective stress, that whatever stress comes, this is simply equal to the pore water pressure, because this pore water cannot dissipate easily. So this thing is true for one dimensional loading, when there are no shear stresses. But here what happens, for example in triaxial test, when we apply the cell pressure, so at that stage if these conditions are undrained, in that point, at that point we can say, and if the soil is saturated, at that point we can say that increase in pore water pressure is equal to increase in cell pressure. But after that, when we apply the deviator stress also, so at the point of deviator stress, the soil feels the shear stresses also, because of the this stress difference. Now when the shear stresses are also there, so we cannot say that increase in pore water pressure is simply equal to the increase in stress, because there are shear stresses also. So a part of pore water pressure is there due to shear stresses, and a part of pore water pressure is there due to the normal stresses. And one more thing, that when we saw that when we apply these deviator stresses, so what happens, the pore water pressure can be positive also, or it can be negative also, depending upon the stress history of the soil. It means whether the soil is normally consolidated or it is over consolidated. So there are other complexities also, so we cannot simply say that increase in stress is equal to increase in pore water pressure, and that's why we need some more elaborate results. So for that purpose, the Skempton's pore water pressure parameters are given. So according to that, the increase in pore water pressure is given as B delta sigma 3 plus A delta sigma 1 minus delta sigma 3. If we want to break this equation in two parts, so we can write delta u1 is equal to B delta sigma 3 and delta u2 is equal to BA delta sigma 1 minus delta sigma 3. So here B delta sigma 3, so this is the change in pore pressure, that is delta u1, change in pore pressure due to change in cell pressure, whereas this delta u2 is equal to change in pore pressure due to change in deviator stress. So if we know the values of these parameters A and B, these are known as Skempton's pore pressure parameters, then our problem is solved. So these parameters can be obtained using the triaxial test. So if we conduct the unconsolidated undrained test, so when we apply the cell pressure, so we are talking about the saturated clay here or the saturated soil. So when we apply the cell pressure and if this soil is saturated, so we know that this change in pore pressure is equal to change in cell pressure. So from here, if we use this equation, so we can find out B, and at the second stage of this test, when we apply the deviator stress, so at that stage what change in pore pressure is coming, that we can relate with the change in deviator stress. So in this test we can find out these pore pressure parameters. Apart from this, we can use the CU test also for the determination of pore pressure parameters. So the pore pressure parameter B, its value is 1 if the soil is fully saturated. We can see from this equation itself, because if the soil is saturated, so change in pore pressure is equal to change in cell pressure. So B must be 1 in that case. And its value is 0 for dry soil. So we can say the value of B varies from 0 to 1. But it is not a constant for a soil, it depends upon the stress increase. Or we can say it is a function of stress range. So if we are trying to find out the value of A in this equation BA, that is u2 is equal to BA delta sigma 1 minus delta sigma 3. So in that case, we should be careful about this B. It should be in the stress range of this deviator stress. Otherwise, the value may be misleading. So that was about B, and the coefficient A, its value can be as high as 2 to 3 for very loose saturated fine sand, and its value is between minus 0.5 to 0 for over consolidated clay, and its value is between 0 to 0.5 for normally consolidated clay. So that is about the Skempton pore pressure parameters. This is a very important topic, and many times objectives are asked from this topic. So the last thing that is remaining in this unit is the soil liquefaction. So I want to give some idea about this thing. So what is soil liquefaction? As I talked earlier, that if the loading is rapid enough, it means if this rate of loading is too high, then in coarse grained soil, that is for example in sand also, undrained conditions are possible. So this phenomena happens in saturated loose sands. So what happens if this rate of loading is very high? So we know that for saturated loose sands, the pore water pressure will be positive, so the effective stress will decrease. And if this rate of loading is very high, then there may be a case when effective stress reduces to zero. And we know that in case of sand, that shear strength is a function of effective stress, and there is no cohesion because cohesion is zero for sands. So if effective stress is zero, it means shear strength of the soil becomes zero. It means the soil cannot take any load, and so in that case structure may fail, or structure fails. What are the typical example? So this way, if the shear strength reduces to zero, that we call as soil liquefaction. What are the cases where it happens? So in case of earthquake loads, or in case of pile driving, or vibration of machines, or some explosive blasting is there. So in these cases, the shear strength may reduce to zero. So if we are doing cumulative loading also, so if we are just increasing the load quickly, in that case the pore pressure also increases. So that is one more case when shear strength can become zero. So these are the typical examples where soil liquefaction may happen. So I think I have covered all the things in shear strength. Thank you.